For 500 years, a small village has stood in the shadow of China's most admired landmark, the Great Wall. The village, Mutianyu, shares the same name as the section of the Great Wall built during the Ming Dynasty. Mutianyu is surrounded by the Great Wall, hidden from the rest of the world. Throughout its history, Mutianyu village thrived mostly on agriculture and light tourism, until a decade ago, when an American arrived and brought big changes to this ancient village. His name is Jim Spear. More than 20 years ago, Jim was a PhD student at the University of California. At that time, China was beginning to open its doors to the outside world, encouraging cultural exchange and economic development. Jim realized that it was a rare opportunity. Without any hesitation, Jim and his wife Tang Liang decided to go to Beijing to find a new life.
我们在美国那个时候，我们觉得全中国像一个军队一样，大家都早晨起床都要特别守规矩，所以就是觉得大家都是像机器人一样。然后我下飞机，我马上有感觉，中国是一个特别活跃的一个地方。
During the 1980s, there were fewer foreigners in Beijing than there are today. At that time, many foreign companies wanted to expand into the Chinese market. These companies were seeking international perspectives and foreign talent. Jim found a very high-paying job in the Beijing branch of an American-listed company. He led a rich and peaceful life for 10 years. In 1996, an interesting encounter at Mutianyu along the Great Wall changed his life.
I brought a friend of mine who was visiting from Seoul to climb the Great Wall. And it was a summer day, and it was really hot. And we walked back down, and we were very tired. So we sat by the side of the path on a rock. And near us was a peasant who had a little stand where he was selling souvenirs. He was selling T-shirts. And he struck up a conversation with me, and I knew a little bit of Chinese, and I told him, look, I'm not interested in buying your souvenirs, but I have to tell you, I envy you living in such a beautiful place. And I've had a dream for many years of being able to have a house at the Great Wall, but I don't think that will ever happen for me as a foreigner here in China. And out of the blue, this peasant, his name is Li Fengquan, I still know him, he lives 3 houses down from me right on this lane. He said to me, I'll help you.
As Jim left the Great Wall, he put his talk behind him. He didn't realize that his life would change completely.
A few days later, he called our house, and it was during the day, and I was at work, and Liang was home that day, and she answered the phone, and there was this guy with a really thick accent, something in Chinese, and she says, what do you mean you found a house for us? Get out of here. And she hung up the phone. And that could have been the end of it all. But Li Fengquan is a very persistent man, and he called back, and eventually Liang understood that I had met him on the wall, and he'd actually found several houses for us to come and look at here at Mutianyu. And so he did, and he helped us lease this house. This is now 19 years ago, and we've been neighbors ever since. It's one of those magical, serendipitous things, accidents that happen in life that lead to wonderful new opportunities. Who'd have thunk it that there was a peasant that I would run into on the Great Wall, try to sell me a T-shirt, and I'd buy a house instead. In the beginning, this house was just our weekend place, and it was not very much fixed up. It was very close to a traditional peasant home. We put in some water and a septic tank so that we could have a Western-style toilet and showers in the house. But we would just come here on weekends. And even though I couldn't come here very much because I was so busy in my career, just knowing that I had this little house out under the Great Wall, whenever I would think of it, wherever I was at in the world, it just made me happy. I guess it was about 9, almost going on 10 years ago now, that I started to get really tired of being in the corporate life. I worked for an American public company, and I traveled 60, 70% of the time. I had conference calls almost every night. It was really exhausting. And I got increasingly dissatisfied with that life. And I thought, is that all there is? This is what I'm going to have to do until I die? And I don't have any regrets for my career and what I did previously, but I was ready for something new. And so I came up with a crazy idea. I went home one night and I said to Liang, I quit. And she looked at me. She said, what do you mean you quit? And I said, I can't handle it anymore. I just can't do this business anymore and travel all the time. It's too much pressure. I'm unhappy. I'm never relaxed. I want to do more with my life. And she says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, first of all, I just quit. Well, really? What are we going to do? I mean, you can't just quit. We have 2 kids who have to go to college. What about retiring? And I said, I don't care. I was very, very selfish. So I said, something will turn up. She said, but really, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I think we should move out to Mutianyu Great Wall and live in our house out there. And she just looked at me. And then she finally said, live at Mutianyu Great Wall? But I'm a city girl. I don't want to live out at the Great Wall. And I had my way. And Liang is an equal partner in our life and in our business. And I'm very fortunate that she didn't just say, goodbye, Jim.
Jim's family yearned for a better life and quickly moved to Mutianyu. However, the challenges of adapting to such a different life were greater than they could have anticipated.
第一天下午刚摆好那个家具，松一口气，就感觉到家了。然后呢，突然呢，那个有人叭叭叭叭，这个门，那个院子的门，然后呢，不知道是什么事情呢。唐亮去开门呢，有一个那个村民呢，那个跟唐亮说：“这是你的车吗？”唐亮说：“是。”他说：“你不能停车在那儿。”唐亮说：“这就是我们自己的门口，我们哪儿不能停车在那儿？”然后呢，他说：“你可能不知道，就是那棵树是我的树，你的车停在那儿压我的树根，影响我的那个产量，所以你不能停在那儿。”然后呢，唐亮那个反复的跟他那个说话，然后呢，大声音喊叫吵架的样子，最后那个结果是我们向他1年付90块钱，那个没有问题了。那个时候我就跟唐亮商量，我那个他怎么这样呢？那个他不是欺负我们。
Jim realized he had a lot of work to do if he was going to make Mutianyu a real home.
那个星期六晚上，有几个村民，那个吃完晚饭到家里来跟我一起喝酒，那个他们愿意尝尝我的洋酒。所以我发现一起喝酒，大家都轻松了，可以交流得很好。我可以问他们很多问题，他们也可以问我问题呢。慢慢了解一些那个具体的那个风俗习惯，然后我发现了他们很多想法有根据的、有道理的，不是因为我是一个外国人针对我，因为每棵树。那个都分到那个一个村民的那个身上，他们是靠这个果树那个过日子，所以对他来讲，如果产量那个降下，他就是 会有一定的那个困难了。
Life eventually started to fall into place, and his relationship with local villagers also improved. Jim began to reconstruct his home. He wanted to retain the original structure and characteristics while also incorporating modern life as much as possible, improving the building's comfort. After this transformation, the house now contains not only practical accommodations, but also provides beautiful scenic views of the Great Wall from all angles.
Coming to live full-time in the village really created many new opportunities, and something did turn up. After I remodeled this house, friends liked it, and they said, "Jim, will you do a house for us?" And so actually what happened is I started to help people find properties out here at the Great Wall, and then come up with designs to remodel and expand them. And now I've done more than 30 houses, and so sort of willy-nilly by accident I've become a designer, I guess a kind of architect.
Exceeding everyone's expectation, Jim looked for a quiet life in the village under the Great Wall, and he inadvertently found a new career in the process. As he started to build his new career, the party secretary of Mu Tianyu village found him and talked to him.
I got a little scared. I'd met him a number of times, but I mean, he's an official. With some trepidation, I went down to the village hall and I reported. And the mayor, his name is Li Lianting, he's still the mayor here. He was very polite. He asked me to sit down. He gave me a cup of tea, and then he gave me a lecture. He said, "Look, in case you hadn't noticed, our village is having a really hard time. We've had a community here with the same families for more than 500 years, since the Ming Dynasty, when the Great Wall was built. And now the world is changing so rapidly. We've been fortunate to have a Great Wall tourism site here, and some of the villagers have made a good living from that. But the times are changing, and the visitors don't like buying the souvenirs as much as they once did. And the younger people in the village, they don't want to be vendors of trinkets and souvenirs on the Great Wall, so they all move away. There aren't any good jobs here. And the population is aging. There are a lot of old people who don't have incomes at all and are having really hard times." And he said, "Nobody's ever invested in the village. Nobody's ever done something that would cause people to stay here longer, not just look at the Great Wall for an hour or two, but to stay in this area longer and spend more money." And he said, "Mr. Spear, you are a rich American. We want you to invest in the village. It's time you give something back. We let you live here, and now you have to help us." And at first I was just really well, all I want to do is just have my own life. But the mayor got me thinking about what it meant to have the privilege to live in a community, and that individual people in the community had a responsibility to make a contribution.
After a period of reflection, Jim decided to begin his first project in Mutianyu.
Well, the building behind me was Mutianyu's primary school. Until at the beginning of the 1990s, it was closed down. I have a young man who works with me who went to first and second grade right here in that room where our office is now. And they didn't have enough kids. He only had 2 classmates. So the township consolidated the schools, and the building was left here empty and falling apart for many, many years. And when we decided to start a business in the village, this was the only real building in the village. And so it was empty, and this is what we leased. We started a restaurant, and our idea was to keep the feeling of being a schoolyard.
In 2008, after management of the schoolhouse became stable, a new thought occurred to Jim. He envisioned building a place where visitors to Mutianyu could enjoy longer stays in this beautiful environment. He rented an abandoned tile factory in the village centre and transformed it into a luxury hotel, Mutianyu's Brickyard.
Throughout my whole life, people have helped me. And so one of the things that's important to me, and I think for any person, is to say thank you and to remember the people who've helped you. So one of the things I put up here at the Brickyard is an old Chinese saying, and I think in this scene it's what's behind me back over there. And in Chinese it says, 吃水不忘挖井人了. And it means something like, if you drink the water, don't forget the person, the people who dug the well. And so I've been drinking a lot of water, and it's really important for me not to forget that I didn't do it all by myself. That there have been many people, from the workers to the villagers to the government officials, who've opened the way for us to start businesses here. To my wife, to my family, to my friends, to my teachers, to my employers. Everybody's given me a wonderful opportunity. So life is full of challenges and problems, but there are also many opportunities, and I'm a very fortunate person.